report. The full complement of it is not out in the public domain as yet, but this is what they put out last year. And first off, that this entire SML deal, one, did not have any needs assessment done before it was awarded, and then also there was, based on the details of the KPMG report, there was no approval by the Public Procurement Authority, and then also the GRA board itself did not even consider and approve this SML deal before it was executed. And then, in terms of revenue to the state, the KPMG report found out that no deduction of VAT by GRA for an 8-month period on the payments made to SML, which led to some 13.838 million cedis lost to the state. Apart from that, they talk about all of these laws that they believe that the portions of this GRA SML deal has violated. The 1992 Constitution, Ghana Revenue Authority Act, Public Financial Management, Public Procurement Act, National Petroleum Authority Act, National Petroleum Authority Regulations 2012, Value Added Tax Act 2013, Public Financial Management on Revenue Regulations, Petroleum Commission Act, Minerals Commission Act, Precious Minerals Marketing Company Act, Ghana Standards Authority Act. All of these laws, according to the KPMG report, the GRA SML deal has violated a number of portions of these laws as captured in there. 8 people have been arrested, some granted bail by the special prosecutor, and these 8 people include former former commissioner generals of the GRA and 1 former deputy commissioner of the GRA, who is also acting as one of the top officials of SML as we speak. Senanu is a co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Edem Senanu is joining us on Zoom. Thank you for joining us. First of all, I want to find out from you what you make of this development with the arrest of these persons by the special prosecutor.
Well, evidently the OSP would not be picking up these persons on the back of having done those searches a week or so ago if they didn't have very good reason to believe that they have some substantive information or they are persons embroiled in this matter, and so they needed to be, picked up. I am, in my mind, it's still part of the investigative phase, and it's good to know that these issues are not just being dropped or swept under the carpet. It's just sometimes, distressing when persons of a certain caliber appear to be involved in these things, and you are hopeful that perhaps it is not the case that they are substantively involved in, engaging in acts that are corrupt and otherwise. So we'll see how this turns out. But clearly, the most important thing is that the OSP is continuing to do the investigations, and hopefully at some point report back to the good people of this country on their findings.
And if you look at the evolution of this SML deal, GRA extended this contract with SML, and SML then transitioned from being a co-contractor to become the main contractor of GRA. And this was without public procurement approval, without parliamentary approval, without the GRA board's approval. And there was no deduction of VAT, so the state lost revenue. With all of these violations, what does it point to clearly in terms of the persons who could have allegedly collaborated and corroborated this entire process?
Well, yes, there appears to be a conflict of interests written all over this. So the whole ethics of, on one hand, having contracts that hadn't gone through due process, requests had been made, PPA refused, they hadn't gotten the parliamentary approvals, and yet they went ahead. Meanwhile, they had all the professional skills, you have the procurement experts, you had the legal people, How could all of this happen? And then you have the transition of persons who were themselves members of GRA at one point, then transitioning to become key members in the service provider to GRA. It's just, unbelievable. So, yeah, clearly the conflict of interest is branded all over this, and why persons of such high standing would not identify this and ensure that they did not get themselves into such a situation. Mind you, the position of our constitution and most places is that you should not even put yourself into a state or position of potential conflict of interest. Public officers are supposed to be mindful not to get themselves into a situation of likely conflict of interest. So we are not even saying conflict of interest itself. The potential of it, you're supposed to be aware enough to avoid it. And so, yes, there's a lot of questions to be answered from the perspective of public officers who ought to have known better.
I thank you. Thank you very much, Edem Senanu, the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Thank you for your thoughts on this. And